represents holding the 50. In today's session, I will be breaking down how to use the 50% levels from the higher time frame to help stay in winning trades longer or know when it's time to cut with confidence. Just using this simple level with Confluence is going to help change the way you trade drastically. So what are we going to discuss in this session? We're going to talk about what the 50 is, why it matters. We're going to talk about entries and exits. We're going to talk about Confluence. I'm going to give you some examples. Then I'm going to take it to the charts, which is my favorite part. And then I'm going to end with the bread and butter, which is just a brief recap of some of the things we discussed in today's session. All right, so what is the 50? The 50% is the midpoint between the significant high and low on the chart. This area acts as a level of support, a resistance. This is the zone to where price pulls back to before continuing in its original direction. And as traders, we understand that price is drawn to this level, and that's why we watch it for entries, exits, or confirmation of trend continuations. So why does it matter? Price tends to retest this area before continuing its trend, making it a great spot for confirmation. It helps traders stay on winning trades longer or recognize when momentum is shifting, and it's a tool that you can use for planning entries, exits, or stop losses with confidence. So when to hold? When price pulls back but holds, meaning not closing beyond the 50%, is often a healthy retracement. That's your sign to trust the move and stay patient. When to cut? If price closes beyond the 50% on the time frame you're trading, so keep that in mind. It closes beyond the 50% level on the time frame you're trading, it is a clue that momentum may be fading. So you can look to exit your trade here fully, or you can take some contracts off the table, secure some profits, let the rest run. But just keep in mind, this is based off your entry. So you may not be able to hold through price closing 50% of the candle, right? So secure profits if you need to, and then wait for price to set up for you again. It's always another opportunity. It's always another setup. It's not always profits though. So secure profits if you must. If you must. All right, so Confluence. I feel like I talk about this in all my sessions, but the 50% level gets stronger when it's lined up with other key levels and tools. So it's your higher time frame support and resistance, your Fibonacci levels, your trend lines, your market structures, your broadening formation, your candlestick patterns. Um, these are all things that you can use to build Confluence. And when multiple signals align with the 50% level, it's not just a pullback, it's a high probability entry or exit zone. So what am I recommending you do? I recommend that you fib the previous candle or your entry candle on the 15-minute or higher time frame. Again, fib the previous candle or your entry candle on the 15-minute time frame or higher. If price holds, meaning respects the 50% level, and you have Confluence, then consider holding that trade. If price closes beyond the 50%, and Confluence is weakened. So meaning that you probably had 5 things in Confluence, now you only have 2 things in Confluence. It might be time to cut or reduce your risk, meaning just take contracts off the table. All right, close, not push. It is crucial to watch for how price behaves around significant levels of support and resistance, and pay attention to where price merely push past that level or actually close beyond it. It shows strength of the level if price pushes but does not close beyond that level. A closer price beyond the level of support and resistance should give you more confidence in your setup. A close above resistance or below support is often seen as confirmation of a breakout, suggesting that the market may continue in that direction. How many times have you been in a trade and the market will make a strong push in a particular direction against your trade, only for it to scare you out of your trade, you cut, and now price turn around and go back in your favor? How many times has that happened to where price pushes in a particular direction, but it never closed in that direction? And now you're out of your trade, or you hop in the trade going in the opposite direction, and now that one's heading back the opposite way, and now you're stuck in that trade. So now you done took 2 losses, right? It happens. So in understanding that the market is going to play on our fears, or it tries. It tries to play on our fears. It tries to play on our emotions. And understanding that it's best to let price close, not push you out of your trades. So an example, 15-minute time frame. Let's say you entered on this candle. We're going to use our Fib tool. We're going to connect from the lows to the highs, we're going to get our 50% level, right? So if you had a good entry, which would be somewhere down here at the bottom before price started making its way back up, then you would use this 50% as a guide for you to exit your trade. Once price closes beyond this level to the downside, since this is an uptrend, then you should ask yourself, do you want to exit your trade? Do you want to exit your trade? Now, let's say you got in here on the same candle, but you got in here. It's less likely that you're going to let price pull back to this area and close below this 50%. It's just less than likely that you're going to do it, right? But again, you might. You definitely might. I don't recommend it, but you definitely might do that, right? So it's definitely based off your entry. And you can just keep moving the fibs if you want to move your fibs, or you can just leave it on your entry candle. It's definitely up to you. But I need you guys to look at price when price is talking to you. You look at this candle, it pushed, where did it close? It pushed, where did it close? This one didn't really push, but it's set in this area, right? If you just look across, price is clearly creating a range, just using the wick as a guide, right? It's clearly sitting inside this range. This candle pushed, came back and closed below. Can't push, came back below. So if you just look at the halfway point of this candle right here, right? Just the halfway point. You look at this candle probably just set on top of the 50% of it, but it didn't say, okay, I'm going to the downside or to the upside. Short of it sweeping these highs, Whitey swept these highs. It's continuing as a downtrend candle, and if you trade the scrap, this is a failed two up candle, right? So there's three things that saying this possibly might be a pullback. This candle here, if you fib this candle, get the 50%, you clearly see that this candle opened up, it pushed above the 50%, it did not take out these highs, and it started making its way back down, respecting the 50%. So if you was in this trade here or here, candle, when the price did this on this candle and it pushed above the 50% and came back below, it's up to you to identify, do you want to exit this trade, secure some profits, and let some runners run? That's definitely up to you. But this candle for sure is telling you that this might be a deeper pullback. You take that fib, put it on this candle, 5 to 50%. This is saying the same thing. It pushed above the 50%, closed back below it. Fib this candle. This candle here opened up, pushed above the 50%, closed back below it. So again, if you entered here and here, price told you within at least this candle, if you didn't take it, the hint here, at least told you on this candle that this might be a deeper pullback. So it's up to you to decide if you want to hold or not. In this example here, let's say you got into the trade here, right? This next candle opened up and closed. Now price is here. So we're going to move our fib to this candle. Lows to highs. We want to see if price respects this level. This is an example of price pushing, but where did we close? This is an example of price pushing, but where did it close? Example of price pushing, but where did it close? Now, if you got in down here, I don't know if you would have held this trade here, right? Even if you didn't, secure some profits. Let price set up for you, because that's what price is doing right now with this 50% level. It tells you 3 times that this is a strong area for price, and it's having a hard time to get through this level. Look to take entry. Like I said, it's always another opportunity, but profits are not always available, right? So you have to take it. I'd rather you be confident and get out of your trading confidence than sit through this scared, right? That's what I'd rather. But if you got in on this candle, you probably wouldn't hold to this. You probably wouldn't. And I wouldn't want you to, because if you look at price and we move and fib this candle clearly closed below the 50% of this candle. So it was talking to you here. You didn't know it was going to do a strong push like this. There's no way of knowing. All you can do is read what price is saying. Price got below the 50% of this candle. It's probably going to be a deeper pullback, right? And even if you would have fibbed this candle, look what this wick did. It went above the 50% of this candle and came back down, right? It's talking to you. You just got to listen. But another opportunity did present itself. So even if you secure profits here off an entry off this candle, secure profits off an entry on this candle, it's set up for you again. It's always another opportunity. This is the 15-minute time frame. Our time frame. Let's just say we're looking for entry. We're going to fib the previous candle, right? So this is the current candle, this is the previous candle. Price opened up, pushed below the 50%, started making its way back above. And I promise this started making its way back up the back half of this hour time frame. If you haven't watched my back half session, please do. It's in my YouTube channel. But you see price opened up, push to its lowest point, and started making its way back above the 50%. This is an opportunity for you to look to get into this trade when you can build Confluence um, off your charts, right? So let's say you take entry here. So we're going to take the fib from this candle. We're going to place it on this candle. Now, just looking at this candle, again, if you got in on this candle, I can't say that you would hold when price made a strong push to the downside, right? I can't say that you would hold that. But if you do cut, secure profits. If you look to the left, this is a strong level of resistance that's now acting as a level of support, right? Price pulled back to 50% of this candle. So that's two things in Confluence. Price is heading to the upside, right? So we're going with the continuity of what price is saying. That's three things in Confluence. And if you want to wait for price to get above this VWAP, that's four things in Confluence for you to take this trade. Always another opportunity. Always. In this example here, this is just picking up where this left off, right? So let's say you did take this back to the upside, we'll fib it. Well, we're going to go from the lows to the highs. You see this candle push towards the 50%, but it did not close below it. Hold that trade. Hold that trade. Same thing. We'll take the fib, moving from this candle to this candle. Right? This candle push, but it did not close. It started making its way back up. Right? So as long as price is holding the 50%, then you hold that trade. Once price starts disrespecting the 50%, then we got something to talk about. All right, so let's go look at the charts real quick. I want to show you guys a couple examples. I want to show you guys examples of the price being in a wide range into where you have to probably go down to the lower time frame. I want to turn on some indicators because I know most people use those, and let's see if those help us on our charts. So EMA, the VWAP, I know are popular indicators. Let's turn off these bands on the VWAP. All right, so our time frame, I want to look at this large candle here. Now, I'm showing this on QQQ. This works on options and futures. Price is price, so don't think it's not. All charts are the same. You trade one, you can trade them all. So this candle right here, this is looking like a large range for a price. So if I fib this, I go to my Fib tool. I go from the lows to the highs. This is the 50% of this candle. Now, I say this is a large range because this is almost a 3-point pullback. I doubt that you would let price pull back 3 points to identify if price wants to hold this 50% to possibly head back to the upside. I just find that, I don't know, just a little bit irresponsible if you do. Now, I guess if you had an entry down here, maybe you would. Maybe you would, but I'd just rather secure profits, let price set up again, and then I'll look to get into the trade. But this is one of the times to where if you're trading on the hour time frame, you're fibbing the hour, go look at the 15. The 15 told you before the hour that it was time to get out of this trade. If we go look at it, where we at here. All right, so the last uptrend candle, if we got in, let's say we got in one of these two candles, all right, cool, we're trailing our fib, we're trailing our fib, we're trailing our fib. All right, we fib this one. We look at it, price went to the 50%, but it didn't give like a strong reaction to say, okay, we're going to continue headed to the upside, nor did it close below the 50%. So let price tell you to get out of this trade, not your P&L. Now, if you trade the strat, you know that this is a failed two-up shooter, so it's a high probability of price headed to the downside. All right, so if we hold our trade, all right, well, we don't really have to fib it, but I'm gonna do it. If I fib this, it didn't even get to the 50%. It just dropped. So again, if you got into this trade, how far are you letting price go? How far are you gonna let price go? It didn't even get to the 50%. How far are you gonna let price go and tell you that it doesn't want to head to the upside? So if you was in this trade to the upside, when are you going to cut your trade to identify that price doesn't want to go to the upside? Right? And this is the 15-minute time frame. Let's go look at it on the 5. Let's go look at it on the 5. 5-minute time frame. Told you earlier, right? Last uptrend candle was here. uptrend. We're gonna go from the lows to highs, right? Price clearly closed below that 5-minute time frame. Clearly, right? Clearly closed below it. All right, let's just say you didn't want to take it there. Fib the next one. Didn't even reach the 50%. Started making its way back down. All right, so how far are you gonna let price um pull back for you to identify if you should cut that trade, take some profits, or not, right? So again, if you got in down here, I don't know if I would let price to pull back to this hour time frame to see if it holds and want to head back to the upside. I'm personally not a pullback trader. Like I'll do a little, but this is pretty extreme for me. If I got in down here at the bottom, I feel like that's pretty extreme, right? But again, do what works for you, do what works for your account size, do what works for your confidence, right? Me personally, I'll just let price set up and I'll look to get into the trade again. Let's look for another example. Let's look at this right here. All right, so let's say we was in this trade to the downside. Let's say we was looking to get into this trade. All right, we see price pulling down, it pulled back. Previous candle, we're gonna fib it. Right? Price pushed above the 50%. It swept those highs, right, and started making its way back below the 50%. But like I say with the scratch says if price takes out one side of the range and starts heading back in the opposite direction and it gets past the 50%, it's a high probability of price taking out the lows of the side of that range as well. Right? So say we get into the trade here. All right, cool. We don't have to fib this, but I'll do it. Price is clearly respecting the 50% of this previous candle. We can keep trailing it if we want to. All right, we don't have to fib it. We can eye it. We can clearly tell that price didn't get to the 50% of this candle, but I'm gonna do it for you. Just so you can see it. Didn't happen, right? So it's not until this candle down here to where price disrespected the 50%, meaning that it closed beyond the 50%, right? And this is the hour time frame. So again, another example to where you're probably not going to let price close on the hour. Think about it. It takes an hour for the hour candle to close. You're probably not going to let price close on this time frame. We're going to go down to the smaller time frame and let's see if it shows anything different. And just looking at this candle, it probably didn't. It probably only gave a small difference, but let's look at it on the 15-minute time frame. All right, so the 15-minute time frame, let's fit that last downtrend candle. All right, so again, downtrend candle back above the 50%. You can go ahead and assume since we took out one side of the range, it's probably going to take out the other side of the range just based off his strat. But you could have got out of your trade here, or you could have held until this 15-minute candle close. It did retrace back to the VWAP, right? If you trade VWAP, you might be okay. Well, it might get there and start heading back down. It definitely can, right? So you got to do what works best for you. So let's go look at this on a 5-minute time frame. All right, so on a 5-minute time frame, it's telling a little better, but nothing drastic, right? So this is the 5, this is the 15, this is the hour, right? So again, you can get out when price get above the 15, but again, let price close. So let this candle close and let's see what this next candle does. Or let that 15-minute candle close and let's see what price does, right? The hour is up here. So you got some wiggle room, especially if you got a good entry, right? Especially if you got a good entry. So don't be in such a rush to get out of your trades, but it's definitely telling you on a 5-minute that this might be a deeper pullback, right? And then if I delete this and I fit this candle, you see price pushed to the 50%, didn't quite touch it, started making its way back up, right? So at what point, just reading price, are you going to exit this trade? Now price is above the 50% of the hour time frame when it was into the downside, right? It's above that now. It's retesting that level. It's reaching for the 50% of the previous candle. Didn't quite get there. This is the area that's in Confluence. At what point are you looking to cut this trade, right? But it's just about reading price. Like just read price. Price is clearly closing higher, right? Higher. We close higher. We close higher. We close higher. There's no even reason to fib this. Like we're closing higher. The only person that's doing something new in these trades right now with price is buyers, it's not sellers. So if you was in this trade to the downside, the buyers are talking to you, but are you listening to the buyers? Price got to the VWAP area. It retested the VWAP area. That's definitely an area that's in Confluence that you could look to take entry on because you have price bouncing off the the VWAP, and then if you fib this, that's a strong area in Confluence to where you look to take entry. Let's say you did take entry there. All right, well, let's fib our candles until price disrespects something. Held that. Next one, same thing. Held that. All right, this candle pushed right off of it. It started to come back up. And it's not into this area here to where you see price pushing past your levels. Do you cut or do you hold? And if we got in on this candle right here, you might let this hold. You might let this ride. You might or you might not, right? Again, secure profits if you're not confident in the trade. I don't want you guys not confident in your trade because that'll have you doing things that you would normally do. That'll have your vision very flawed, cloudy when looking at price, right? So decide, should you cut, secure some profits, let price set up for you again? It's always another opportunity. Always another opportunity. So keep that in your mind. All right, so some of the things we discussed in this session is the 50% is the midpoint between the high and the low. So you can take your fib tool, you're gonna either fib the previous candle or your entry candle, and as long as price respects the 50%, then you hold. Right? So that's meaning that it's not closing beyond the 50%. If it's disrespecting your 50%, meaning that it is closing beyond your 50%, then it's time for you to cut or take some profits off the table and let your runners run. And this is based off your entry. So you may have to go down a time frame if the range is too wide, right? I showed you guys an example where you go down to the 5 minute or the 15 minute, and it's telling you on that time frame before the hour candle even closes that it might be time to secure some profits or hold our trades. And then we talked about price closing and not pushing, right? Far too often, price will push in a particular direction, scare you out of your trade for it to only close and head back in the direction that you were in the trade um, going in the first place, right? So let price close. So if you got to go down to the smaller time frames and find price closing on the 15 out of 5, then go do that. Sometimes the hour is too long. Even if you're using the 4 hour levels, it takes 4 hours for the 4 hour candle to close. Who has that kind of time, right? So hour, 15 minute, 5 minute, go ahead and identify price being disrespected or respected on those lower time frames first. And then you can identify should you cut or hold your trade. Like I said, the 5 minute time frame is the lowest time frame I recommend you guys going. Though sometimes you can go smaller if you can handle the smaller time frames and you identify what you're looking for. But remember, close, not push. All right, so we have come to the end of this session. If you guys have any questions, feel free to DM me or drop it in the comment section below. But until next time, I thank you guys for breaking bread with me. You guys stay blessed.